Teresa pushed back hard against that documentary's claims, especially about being a realtor.
And that detailed story about the season 1 furniture scene, alleging it was largely staged by production to show massive cash spending.
Plus, her renewed focus on faith with Luis and finding common ground with Porsha Williams over family joining the show unexpectedly. Dorit Kemsley. She filed for divorce from PK.
Yeah, and this attorney, Ronald Richards, he was all over X. And he had some, well, pretty specific things to say about PK's finances being a huge factor here.
The source of the money was kind of suppressed.
Suppressed, meaning hidden, to keep any new relationships kind of low-key. Gia Giudice. There was one thing in the trailer that got to her.
She mentioned being annoyed about that clip. She wasn't thrilled about that snippet being the highlight.
I get that.
Coping with divorce, parents' incarceration, law. Oh, and she mentioned her dream guest besides her mom. In this video, we'll be talking about Teresa Giudice and some pretty interesting things she has said recently.
Yeah, specifically about that Hollywood Demons documentary, and also some stories from the very early days of Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Right. So first, this documentary, Hollywood Demons, she's not happy about it.
No, not at all. She was on her podcast basically saying it made false claims about her.
And she singled one out as something about being a realtor.
Exactly. The documentary apparently stated she claimed she was a realtor in some documents. She says absolutely not, never happened. Joe never said that, period. She seemed genuinely surprised and pretty upset that her photo was used so prominently to promote it.
Especially since she says she wasn't paid or anything.
Right. And then Gia Giudice apparently suggested the IRS director they interviewed might not even be like a real person, which is quite a claim.
It does make you question the documentary's whole approach.
Definitely raises questions about fact-checking there. Okay, shifting gears a bit. She also talked about RHONJ Season 1.
Yes, the infamous furniture shopping scene with Jacqueline Loretta.
That's the one. Teresa's saying now that the whole scene was, well, kind of fabricated.
Fabricated how? Like, what really happened?
She says she did buy furniture, some sofas, a bedroom set, you know, normal stuff.
Okay.
But the show made it seem like she was dropping like a massive amount of cash. She said they flashed a calculator showing like $120,000 or maybe $140,000. She's adamant that was totally manufactured.
Wow. That's a big difference from just sofas and a bedroom set.
A huge difference. And she describes how the producers apparently told her and Jacqueline to like take out whatever cash they had and count it for the cameras.
So staging this image of her flashing cash.
Pretty much. She insists she definitely did not have $120,000 cash just sitting in her Louis Vuitton bag.
I mean, who does?
Yeah, maybe some people. But she says she didn't. She even calls herself stupid for doing it.
Why stupid?
Because she was new to reality TV, she says, and just did what the producers told her to do. Didn't question it back then.
And she says Jacqueline can confirm this.
Yeah, she said Jacqueline Loretta can vouch for her story.
Moving away from the drama of filming, she also talked about faith.
Yes, bringing God back into her life more recently. It sounds like Luis Ruelas' father played a role in that.
Oh, interesting. How so?
He seems to have encouraged them to go back to church. Now she says they attend every Sunday.
So it's become a regular part of their routine.
Apparently so. And Luis sends out a morning prayer to their group chat every day. She really emphasized how important faith is now alongside Luis and her kids. God is the only other one that matters, she said.
That sounds like a big shift, finding that grounding.
It does seem that way. And interestingly, she connected her own experiences to something that happened with Porsha Williams.
What was the connection?
Remember when Porsha's ex-fiance, Dennis McKinley, filmed scenes with Drew Sidora, and Porsha apparently didn't know beforehand?
Oh, right. Yeah, that caused quite a stir.
Well, Teresa said she really felt for Porsha there, felt she was sideswiped, because Dennis didn't give her a heads up.
And she sees a parallel to her own life.
Exactly. She compared it to when her brother, Joe Gorga, Melissa Gorga, and Kathy Wakil all joined RHONJ back before Season 3.
Oh, wow. She didn't know they were joining.
She says she found out right before her nephew's christening. Literally, like, right before.
That must have been incredibly awkward and difficult.
Yeah, she talked about how she almost quit the show then and there.
But she didn't. Why stay?
She felt she kind of had to. She had already done 2 seasons. The cameras were there for the christening. She felt obligated, didn't want to ruin the day or the filming.
That's a tough spot to be in. Personal life clashing hard with the show.
Definitely. She actually texted Porsha about it, saying something like, "Now you know how I feel."
Wow. A sort of housewives solidarity moment years later.
Kinda, yeah. And finally, she tied things back to her faith again. She talked about believing God helps her see people more clearly now, helps her discern intentions.
Oh, figuring out who's genuine.
Yeah, she used this analogy like the devil comes knocking and you need to recognize and remove that negativity. She feels like God has been showing up for her.
So faith is helping her navigate relationships and maybe the challenges of being in the public eye.
That seems to be the message, yeah. Using faith as a guide. So look, if you don't want to miss out on any future Realty TV updates, make sure you hit subscribe and tap that bell icon too. Okay, next update we have about
Dorit Kemsley. She filed for divorce from PK.
Yeah, and the timing was interesting. It was like the day after those photos came out.
The ones of PK and Shanawal, yeah. Very public display of affection. It definitely got people talking, about what was really going on.
It did. And almost instantly, this attorney, Ronald Richards, he was all over X. And he had some, well, pretty specific things to say about PK's finances being a huge factor here.
Uh-huh. He brought up the house, didn't he? How it was held in an LLC.
Exactly. Why was that such a big deal, according to him?
Well, Richards laid it out. Back when Dorit first joined Beverly Hills, PK apparently had these pretty massive judgments against him.
We're talking millions there.
Yeah, one was like $1.4 million, another $2.2 million. So the point Richards made was if the house was just in PK's name...
those debts could have attached to it, like a lien.
Precisely. But putting it in an LLC, apparently with Dorit as the owner, sort of shielded it, protected it from those past debts.
Smart move, maybe. But weren't those debts eventually paid off?
They were, yeah. Reports say by early 2022. But Richards also threw something else out there.
What was that?
He basically alleged that how they paid off that $3.7 million debt, the source of the money, was kind of suppressed.
Suppressed, meaning hidden.
Yeah, like it kept quiet to, maintain that certain image for the show.
And he didn't stop there with the financial stuff, did he?
No, he had another post about PK supposedly using the Boy George brand.
Using it how?
Like leveraging it, borrowing against it. Richards called it a perfected lien.
Okay, break that down. Perfected lien.
Basically, it sounds like PK might have used future earnings or maybe rights connected to Boy George as collateral for a loan. And perfected means it's like legally solid, locked in.
So, Dorit might be second in line for assets.
That's the implication, yeah. That this Boy George debt gets paid first, potentially leaving less for Dorit in the divorce settlement. It's messy.
Wow, that adds a whole other layer. And then there's the, the personal hurt side of it. Us Weekly had a source talking about Dorit's feelings.
About the photos with Shanawal.
Yeah, saying she was genuinely hurt, especially since they apparently agreed, for the kids' sake, to keep any new relationships kind of low-key.
That makes sense, wanting to protect them. Public splits are hard enough.
Totally. But this wasn't maybe as sudden as the photos made it seem. The U.S. Weekly Insider also said the divorce was kind of already happening.
That's what they reported, yeah. That this was in motion before the pictures. Apparently both of them felt the show changed them.
Ah, the classic reality TV curse.
Sort of. That they just grew apart because of the pressures and, maybe who they became on the show.
It's a narrative we hear a lot, unfortunately. The pressure cooker effect.
Shows you there's always more going on beneath the surface than what we see on screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next update we have about Gia Giudice.
Right, Teresa's daughter. We've watched her grow up on RHONJ.
Literally.
Yeah.
And now she's got her own thing going on, this new show, Next Gen NYC.
Yeah, alongside some other familiar reality kids like Riley Burris and Brooks Marks.
And she actually talked about it pretty recently, right, on her mom's podcast.
She did, yeah. On Teresa's Turning the Tables podcast, they discussed the new show.
So how's she feeling about Next Gen NYC?
She sounded pretty confident, actually. Said she wasn't nervous about just being her authentic self.
Good for her.
And yeah, excited to see how it all turns out, how it's edited together.
Although, there was one thing in the trailer that got to her.
Oh, yeah. She mentioned being annoyed about that clip.
The shut the f*** up line.
She claims she only actually said it, like, once the entire season.
So she felt it was kind of taken out of context, maybe. Made her look a certain way.
That seemed to be her point. She wasn't thrilled about that snippet being the highlight.
I get that. Did she talk about how filming this show felt different from Housewives?
She did. She described Next Gen as, more playful, fun, less serious.
Which makes sense, compared to the heavy family drama on Jersey.
Exactly. She called the Housewives stuff real, but also exhausting. Understandable, given everything her family went through on camera.
Yeah, absolutely. So this sounds like maybe a lighter kind of reality TV experience for her.
Seems like it. She also touched on dealing with criticism, which sadly she's had a lot of experience with.
Since she was pretty young, yeah.
Uh-huh. She talked about developing thick skin, especially during all the legal trouble with her parents. Said it forced her to grow up fast.
That must have been incredibly tough. It's impressive how she seems to handle it now.
Definitely. And beyond the TV show, she started her own podcast too. Casual Chaos.
Casual Chaos, okay.
Yeah.
What's the focus there?
Well, she said she just loves talking, loves conversation, and wants to share her own story.
Makes sense.
But eventually, she wants to do more solo episodes, tackling some heavier topics. Things like, coping with divorce, parents' incarceration, loss, stuff she's personally dealt with.
Wow, drawing on her own life experiences to connect with people. That's pretty vulnerable.
It sounds like it, yeah. Using her platform for something potentially helpful. Oh, and she mentioned her dream guest besides her mom, Khloe Kardashian.
Interesting. I can see that. And is she still living at home with Teresa?
For now, but she hinted she might be moving out soon. Said the podcasting demands and the commute are getting tiring. Sounds like she's really focused on building her own career, her own, she used the word empire.
Okay, Gia, go for it. You can feel that ambition.
Yeah, definitely seems like she's ready to carve out her own space. Moving out would be a big step.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's our deep dive for today. Thank you for watching this video. See you tomorrow.